Hello, hello, hello. Um, Imagine Gregorian chant music in the background. I'm have the pleasure of interviewing my house guest from last night. No, get your mind out of the gutter. Nothing happened. Anyway, this is Ralph Reyes, and he
Hello.
is a master pen nib maker, and he's been doing this for 8 years. And we will talk about the one that I think he's most famous for, the famous nine-tined pen. Normally, pens have two tines, and sometimes they have three for a music nib, but he created a nine-tined pen, and you tell us what you did.
Sure. Yeah. Um, besides like the nine-time pen that I make is from a system of what nib stacking is what is commonly referred to today.
The
Inspired.
camera is now
Okay.
here. You can get really
Oh, sure,
close.
sure. Oh, yeah. And so it's inspired by the work of by Nobuyoshi Nakahara of Sailor Company.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll hold it.
The idea behind this one was to use the same technique to stack three Franklin-Christoph music nibs. So it's three steel music nibs placed on top of each other. Um,
So it looks like this,
from
which
each side.
maybe I can make that a
Yeah.
little easier to see. So the side view of the nib is here. And then on top of that, he cut this much off another nib, set it on top like this, and then the same thing with the third nib. So two Franklin-Christoph music nibs were harmed in the making of the one thing. You didn't harm the first one.
No, I did not harm the first one.
Unless welding or whatever is a harm. So you've got these three. It's a vertical. It's a music nib in three dimensions.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not just tine. It's also tine. So 9 tines.
Yeah, 9 tines, and the result is this really juicy line. But more than that, also each each tine itself, each surface of it is somewhat rounded in character, and that goes for all of them. So if we take a look at it, like be like that. They all are arched in a way where they domed in a way where it is that there's baby's bottom
between all the tines.
All the tines, yeah, and that results in it's crazy amount of smoothness. Now the thing is that because of it having 9 tines, ink flow isn't just flowing between the normal way, this being let's call this the top of the nib.
Yeah.
It's also flowing this way, and that negates all of the bad effects of baby's bottom. So that's kind of the function behind it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of. So it's how many baby's bottoms do we have? 8, or do you have 4?
1,
or
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
There's 10. So it's what is that when someone gives birth to 10 kids? What is that? Octuplets is 8. Decatuplets. So with diarrhea, there's a lot of liquid coming out of these baby bottoms, right? Now, baby bottom is, for those of you that don't know it, vintage pens don't have baby's bottom. The cut that they make after the iridium is welded on is really, really sharp, and the technicians would sand or smooth down the edges, and they might put one little tiny bit of sanding in between the two, so it won't be quite as scratchy. But a baby's bottom is very apparent. And sometimes if you're writing, the ink stays up here. It doesn't actually make contact with the paper. Is that what happens with baby's bottom?
Yeah. So
Yes.
if we blow this view up over here, I think this is.
I'm going to move
center.
this. I'm going to move this up a little bit. So now it's a little closer
Yeah.
to the center.
So if we look over here, what happens often is there's enough space where ink gets caught.
Trapped.
Trapped in this area, and it can't make contact with the page to begin flowing with capillary action.
Yeah.
I know this looks.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll cut it out and frame it and put it in my bathroom
So,
with the other pictures I've got.
So where it is that this should be writing, ink can't actually reach the page. Now that the idea, the reason for this is because oftentimes the whether it be the machine or the technicians, they can over round, over smooth.
Yeah, over round it. Yeah.
Whereas vintage nibs, as you were talking about earlier, are slit in a way and oftentimes have a sharper inside corner, where ink can immediately reach the page.
That's why when you a lot of people, modern pen collectors, modern pen users, when I hand them a vintage pen, they immediately want to bring it over to the nib grinder, and I want to take the pen away from them, give back their money, and say, "Don't you dare touch this pen," because part of the sharpness and the bite that a modern that vintage pens have is it's like lumps in your homemade mashed potatoes. It's just what makes them homemade and better than the store-bought in the box kind, because it has that little bit of bite to it, which I think makes it really fun to write with and draw with. Modern pens manufacturers, I think, make them smoother on that inside there, so you don't have that side scratch. I mean, this sound you hear right here, you don't get that with a modern pen. I don't think, not as much.
Oftentimes, yeah.
So
less often these days.
So, but the baby's bottom, by building it the way you do, there's so much ink on that whole pad.
Yeah.
It's like, the little toes of your cat, getting into red paint. It's going to take a long time for that red paint not to go away, because there's so many spaces in between that. So you don't find this. I suppose this. I don't know. I think someone maybe you used this pen to write the thing last week with the Clue game. Did you?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah,
you did.
Yeah, I did.
And there were some where you wrote really fast, and I think I saw some railroading that was happening, because if you go fast with this, I imagine.
I think I was using a different pen for that. I imagine.
Okay.
But if you go really fast,
okay, see, there is railroading.
You can get a little bit of a brush effect. I like to equate this to almost like a large Sharpie. In all honesty,
yeah.
It feels like a Sharpie and has a line that's very similar to a Sharpie. Almost brushly.
It is. I mean, when I first wrote with this thing, I thought, oh my God, this is I had the urge to paint my house because I could paint my house with ink and it would take about an hour and a half rather than using a big paintbrush and spending all day long doing it. But partly because it just seemed so wet and would flow so well. But I could see if I went fast, I would bet it would have a dry brush effect, which is what this one does, or the one that guy made. Now, I'm not going to do this, but if you press down, does it get?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't really. Normally, a music nib, if you press down, the 3 times will spread like that. So there will be a thicker line, but here you've got 3 times 3, and if they were. How could you make it work that way?
There's a way to actually have it so that there's a variation between a low angle and a high angle,
Okay.
going between a monoline where the contact patch would look something like that,
Yeah.
very much like a Sharpie, or yeah, this a little bit blown up.
Yeah.
Or as you increase in size, you could have the patch decrease to something sharper. Now this does it to some degree,
Uh-huh.
where you can see at a regular angle, this is very monoline. Let's see if the dip this again.
Yeah.
But as you go up, you get a little bit more of that,
Finer line.
yeah, that italic character back. Now the thing with let me see. What this guy really is just the
Get more up here.
oh yeah, the baby's bottom. Oh, and also
Yeah.
I call this nib the Ninth Symphony.
Ninth Symphony. Okay.
Because it's a music nib at the it's
And
music
loud.
9 times. Yeah. Now it's funny that you mentioned how previous music nibs used to be flexible, because besides doing experimental nibs, what I try to do a lot of the times are more of technique conservation nibs. I like to call them,
Okay.
or something along that vein. This is a modern pen that's been modified for flex to perform like a vintage music nib. So it's 3 times, but completely reshaped and
Okay.
reformatted.
Unless this is telling
Mhm.
a secret, I can see there's incised lines and stuff. I don't know if that was part of the original thing, but how, if you can describe
Sure.
by drawing it, how did you change or reshape that nib?
Yeah.
I don't, because
I might have to-
okay, I do see that there is flexibility here. So without pressure, it makes
Mhm.
that line.
Mhm.
With pressure, it can see. This is why I don't like
Yeah.
doing music nibs, because I'm not holding them right. I have to learn to hold exactly the right way so that all 3 tines
Mhm.
are down on the ground. So I'm not going to press this
Sure.
as far as you can, but why don't you tell me the range that
Yeah.
has?
So this will start from about here to and go to about there. So the idea behind let me get a better dip off of this. The idea behind music nibs wasn't necessarily to get a really wide line. It was actually about getting as much ink onto the page as possible. So
Okay.
the way you use the new music nib was actually to hold it this like where you would hold a pen normally this way.
Yeah.
You'd actually hold the music nib this way, and then
Okay.
assuming that this was your
Staff
staff
line.
across.
Yeah. Just
You-
by doing a dot would make that
Yeah.
would make an oval essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you'd hold it this way, and it has a line that's very similar to a stub nib.
Yeah.
And then you just use that to create your your notes and staffs.
Now, how would I do that with this pen? I mean,
Mhm.
with just a regular flexible nib,
Mhm.
it might. This part of it, the first part of the line you make on this side, would maybe be too fine. You'd end up with something that looks like that.
Yeah.
Whereas a music nib starts wide. But again, I'm thinking, a stub. I don't know.
A stub could accomplish the
A
same
stub
thing.
could kind of do it.
Yeah, it ends up as kind of a square.
Okay,
And
yeah.
and there's supposed to be enough ink where it is that it becomes bulbous. Now the thing is that that's how a music nib is meant to function. And this emulates it, but at the same time, it's way too much ink as it would be used normally. So I dialed the ink flow back on this one, just that way it could just be written with as a normal pen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I quite enjoyed this one.
So
Mhm.
I was so say again how you altered this.
So this one it's the tines have been the tines have been elongated where the shoulders have been pulled back. So
I see. So
originally
it looks more. Yeah, you've trimmed the shoulders back.
And it's a kind of a little bit more. It's a terrible drawing, but
okay, I'm a professional here. So you this is what the pen originally, we'll say, I'll exaggerate a bit. Here's our music nib.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing a better job. 2 tines, and you've reduced this
Mhm.
the side. You didn't change the nib itself. You just pulled this back. So now there's less gold
Mhm.
or silver or steel,
Mhm.
which will allow it to flex more.
Yeah, this one's gold. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's on top of that. The material's been thinned in a particular way in order to be able to allow for the material to snap back to its
Okay.
original position, and the curvature and the shape of the nib has been reworked as well. So really, the only things that stay original from the original nib are the ink slits and the tipping. The rest of the nib going backwards has all been reshaped in some way.
By removing
Mhm.
material.
Removing material, reshaping
So
material.
the nib is
Yeah.
appears to be longer, even though it
Mhm.
isn't.
Right.
But the individual tines are reduced
Mhm.
so that they spring, and also by removing through grinding or sanding or somehow removing the gold from the bottom of the nib, you in places you've ended up
Mhm.
making it more flexible.
Right, and beyond that, I've also reshaped the curvature of the nib, where the nib actually used to have a more flat top to it.
Okay.
I added curvature to the nib in order
Okay.
to aid its responsiveness.
Okay. So do you then have to change the feed and the hole that everything goes into?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
I have to heat set it in a different way.
For God's sake, all the work you do.
So that was on gold, and I've also done a lot of different gold modifications. This one was an experiment that I did quite a while ago, but this one it's all in an attempt to
Wow. Okay.
recapture like what vintage nibs once performed like, or at least make a decent attempt at it.
Well, this is a great job. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the before picture looked like, but the after picture, it writes very similar to. I don't want to say necessarily it writes similar to a dip pen nib,
Mhm.
but it's aiming in that direction.
Mhm.
And the dip pen nib snaps back from fat to thin really, really quick.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I can think of, and I talked about this to you last week, was the dip pen nibs are flat on the top, rather than the curvature here. So there might be that might be the reason that they're different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's what we're talking about over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
then after all of that, after Goldflex, which has been dabbled in before, I started moving into trying to bring modern steel flex back. Now, back in World War II, gold was used as a war resource for the war effort by pretty much all countries. And
for what?
I'm not sure. What
It seems to me that
Yeah.
the use of gold might have been to buy
Mm.
Deutschmarks or something. Gold was always going to be good,
Mhm.
whereas I didn't realize it was good for any sort of ordnance or for, but anyway, it'd be interesting to find that out. So
Right. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So it was gold had been there. There was a series of it was used as a war resource, and
Okay.
and in Japan, in order to be able to get around the lack of gold, they went to stainless steel, and they came out with a series of nibs that performed very similar to gold in their flexibility, called Shiro nibs, also
Okay.
called white nibs.
Okay.
The idea behind them was that they were steel nibs with a series of cuts and a variety of different forms that allowed them some level of flexibility. And what I over the course of I think about 3-4 years, I tried to emulate those similar cuts onto steel nibs, allowing steel nibs to have a similar flexibility to
Wow,
build.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and these are all individual screw-in units. So the idea behind it was that you could have a modern nib that isn't a historical piece. You know, it's just like just a modern thing.
Modern
to
nib, yeah,
need to
you're not
replace.
ruining something that
Mhm.
was made in 1880.
Yep, and this same nib can unscrew and screw into any of these pens right
Okay.
here. Yeah. So the idea is a handmade nib for a handmade pen, and a nib that you don't have to worry about.
So this nib, when it began its life,
Mhm.
was it a Falcon nib?
Nope, this one was just the steel.
The steel nib.
it was a
So
steel
this was the top view,
Mhm.
and the side. Oops,
Mhm.
the side view. Ignore that line. The side view looked like this.
Mhm.
And what Ralph has done with his tools, whatever they are,
Mhm.
he has removed a chunk of silver or stainless steel here and here,
Mhm.
and also removed a chunk of, I'm exaggerating this, metal here. I can understand this.
Mhm.
I don't understand that.
That's for the managed lifting, but the most important feature of this is actually the very top of it. It's the crosscut. So this nib I call the crossflex, and the idea behind it was.
Oh, it's a cross cut here. So you okay?
Yep.
So he's extended the line here and sliced that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then did that. Okay, I can see why that would work here. Now, a normal Falcon nib, when you see something that is called a Falcon nib on a vintage pen, here's the normal side view of a vintage pen, looks like that. And a Falcon nib, it doesn't seem so much that it's pulling back. It looks more like it's doing that. And I always thought that extra bit of gold might have just had more ink that it held.
Nope. Actually, the Falcon cut is pretty much exactly like that. Yeah, and for anyone who isn't familiar, what we're referring to is the Pilot Falcon nibs, or the FA nibs produced by Pilot.
Okay.
And yeah, they're made of gold, and they feature this cut on the outside in order to be able to achieve flexibility.
Okay.
Now what this nib was actually inspired by, besides the Shiro nibs, was actually the cuts used in steel dip nibs, and the one in particular that this was inspired by was the Leonard Principality, or the Gillette 303, I believe,
Okay.
with the sword cut on the inside. And the issue with using a sword cut on the inside is that it's too it's too wide in terms of where the cut is. So even though it allows for a lot of flexibility, it causes ink to kind of go all over the place, since it's not sealed into the onto the feed. Now, where this is unique is that all of the cuts here, over here, are all the same thickness as the actual ink slit. So the thickness of the slit over here continues all the way down, and it's consistent over here. So no ink actually comes through, and also ink can enter in over here to get drawn to the rest of the nib. Yeah.
Is without telling any secrets, what kind of saw are you using?
That definitely is a trade secret.
That's a trade secret. So okay, so then I will not ask any more questions, other than to say that what kind of saw was used originally by the companies to do this?
Originally, it was used was a very large. It's a very large slitting disc.
Yeah.
It's essentially like the thickness of a sheet of paper, or if not thinner, and it's just a large disc that enters in, and essentially what I'm doing is extending that slit and adding different things to the nib in order to be able to make it flex. Now, beyond,
and that's another trade secret.
Yeah, and beyond just the cuts, there is a level of reshaping and thinning of the material as well,
Okay.
in certain specific points, and But yeah, all of it works in combination to create that flex. And this isn't the only combination that I came up with. This was my answer to try to come up with a flex sensation that was similar to a vintage Wall Eversharp. I have
Okay.
other flex designs that try to emulate different nibs
Mhm.
from a couple flex Schaefers and a Waterman. I've tried to copy before. But this, I've always enjoyed how walls feel,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this was I felt was a nice balance onto a steel
Yeah.
nib.
Wall nibs are. I know there's so many great nib makers back then. Schaefer makes beautiful flexible nibs. Waterman made. I mean, if nibs had a DNA, or a company had a DNA, Waterman was flexible. Wall Eversharps, if they had a DNA, um, I think theirs was had the most variety of nibs that were made. Schaefer's were almost always firm,
Mhm.
but when they made flexible nibs, boy, did they make really strong ones. Um, I'm gonna go find a Schaefer nib for you to play with. It's one that I bought from Rob Morrison. You know Rob?
I don't actually.
Okay.
Yeah. If I saw his face, I probably would remember him.
He used to live here in Boston, and he ran the Penn Show after I stopped for a few years. Before now, it's run by someone else. But Rob loves flexible nibs, and he had this beautiful Schaefer that he sold me, and it was like $200 more than I thought it should have been. But he knew he got me by the balls, and he knew that I'd have to say yes. So I said yes, and I'm almost afraid to use it because um, it's so flexible. It's like a dip nib, but it's a Schaefer. And I've had a couple of nibs. One was a Swan that I ended up selling to a calligrapher because he loved it so much, and I was afraid to use it. So I sold it to him, and he's afraid to use it, but he loves to just take it out and make that amount of line work, and then that's all he needs to do.
Yeah.
So let me get that for you. If I knew in my pen inventory better, I have a Falcon nib, and I'm almost positive it's fatter on the side where it should be thinner. Oops, shit. So I'll be right back. It may, unlike the guy in the South Pole expedition, I may be a while because I'm howling here. Speed it up. Anyway, you're talking. You're live.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tell a joke.
Oh yeah. So this nib is called the Crossflex, and I guess give you guys a writing sample over here. That's for you guys. Have it ink over here. Right at the very end. Yeah, we're right at the very end of the ink in here. Well, it's a demo enough. And I guess I can give a demo of the flexibility of this gold one as well. Over here. I don't actually have a name for this flexibility, but this this flexible nib but this is a modified, and this and the music nib that we were discussing earlier are both Platinum 3776 nibs that were modified for flexibility.
There's one AA Waterman pen. Oops. There's one AA Waterman pen I have somewhere that Otto made for me. I'll try to draw it if I can. So it was a Waterman barrel. I had a dip pen to put in it. And the cap, what did he do? How did he make this work? Oh, I know what it was. The cap was long, and I had a umbrella handle made of sterling silver that was sort of like a small golf ball. And so, and this is all sterling, and this is hollow, but and he lathed down the top part of this so that the sterling is flush with the hard rubber. And it's just this really cool, it's crazy looking thing. Here, I think, first of all, I want you to look at this. And unfortunately, sometimes I get a little bit more enthusiastic than I want to get when I'm using a pen. But look at that first with your eyeballs. That's a really flexible Waterman stub.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And
that's a cool nib.
It starts loud, and it can get really loud, but there's a little tiny fracture happening
Oh, it's a fracture?
Or a bend.
Yeah, there's a bend in it.
I might be able to burnish that down.
Oh, you can definitely.
It's just, it's like writing with a stick of melted butter.
Oh, it's nice.
And it's so smooth, and it just makes big, fat, loud letters. You know, it's but isn't it cool? It's so flexible. And I think, it was probably for a sign painter or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Artist of some sort, I'm sure it was made for.
Yeah.
So here is the Waterman that I bought from Rob. I'm almost positive. Though maybe not. It seems to me I remember it being a two-tone nib. But it was that size pen, that color pen, so ebonized pearl.
Oh, that's really nice.
But it had a really sharp return, so
Yeah.
I think it's a different one, and I may have put it in a different drawer. But because I used to have it on the pens that I have on my desk are ones that I use for calligraphy and for drawing, and often they're pens that are missing their levers or tooth marks all over them or something's screwy with them. So, but it was a very, very fine, flexible. This might be it, but it snapped back really, really fast.
It might just be the paper, yeah.
So this is, did you ever watch the TED Talk videos that I told you to watch?
No, I'm not sure if I did.
I'll play one right now, and he's using this pen, so we have to watch his reaction to it first. Ted is the guy that owns that Swan pen that I was afraid to use.
Mhm.
He now owns it and he's afraid to use it. But TED Peer, no, PIER, TED Talks. Okay, that's why. Gustafson. CAFS. Okay. TED Talks on pens. So this is a friend of mine, a calligrapher friend, artist friend of mine, who tries out a pen, and he immediately thinks of its human counterpart.
Mhm.
So it might be a middle-aged drunk. It might be a crusty old woman. It might be a big butch burly man. But this one was, it's only 1 minute and 13 seconds long, but in his reaction is priceless.
Start. Oh, God. I feel like there's
Okay.
only one thing that you
Okay, we have to start it again. I have to make it big. Remember where my camera is here. And turn this off.
start. Oh, God. I feel like there's only one thing that you could possibly do with this pen nib, and that's perform the most delicate surgery on the brain of an infant. Oh God, it's just like you're gonna cut the meaning in two. Whatever the meaning of the word you're writing is, you're just gonna. Oh shit, this is unbelievable. Oh, this is truly like writing with a straight pen. Just going. Oh, it's almost painful. Oh, I can't stand this. I don't like this. Take it away.
So anyway, I told him to write like he normally writes.
So pretend it's a normal pen. Oh shit! It's interesting. There's some drag on it, almost. Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely some drag on it. I still feel like what it really is not a pen. It's a scalpel.
Scalpel. So anyway, that was him. So now you get to try it out. And you can use this paper. I think this is smooth enough. This is a Triumph nib pen. It was Jean Green's pen for emeritus service to the Red Cross. So maybe she was in fact a nurse that did. So just let me just make sure that it's his ink. Get it the ink to dissolve whatever ink was in it before.
Mhm.
Make sure it's okay. Yes, it is writing, even though you can't see it.
Huh, no
You
kidding.
break it, I'll kill you.
Oh well.
I mean, isn't that the finest nib you've ever
Mhm.
written with? Oh, you do a great job. This paper you're using is quite fine too. You know, there's some people who measure how fine the pen line is that they make using a micrometer.
Mhm.
What I do is I draw an inch, I mark an inch on a piece of paper, and then I make lines. And how many lines I can make, distinct lines. So there's a line, a space, a line, a space, a line, a space, and I can get 125 of them in an inch. And the spaces between the lines are about equal to the line width. So it's 1/250th of an inch. But I have to write very, very fast. You're writing slow, but isn't it great?
That's a great nib. Yeah.
I think I have a video of me writing an address. It's a close-up. Mr. and Mrs. John Smith,
Mhm.
125 Western Avenue, Boston, Massachusetts, 02111. And then you see me cover the entire address with a postage stamp.
Mhm. Yeah. Something also to share is also why it is that this is as smooth as it is. If we look at the side profile of most nibs,
Yeah.
most of the time, they're uh, something like that, where the top of it is really flat.
Yeah.
Sometimes even the nibs themselves can beak over, or there's a bit of curvature.
Yeah.
But Schaefer's, what unique to them
Is
is
the
that
Waverly nib.
yeah, they're actually they're bent up.
They called it the Waverly
Waverly.
nib. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so whenever especially with the Triumph nibs, they're sort of bent up like that. I don't know whether this one is. This
It
one
is, yeah,
is just
very
slightly.
very subtly.
But this is almost like there's one atom of iridium on the nib. It's shared by both sides.
Mhm.
The saw went in between the atom. But
Yeah.
isn't it cool?
It is,
And-
yeah. And so what I wanted to share was
Yeah.
that the reason for when you have when you have it straight or even beaked, the way it is that it contacts the page is very different than how it is when it's over here.
Yeah.
So if you look at like a beaked one, it's like very
Vertical.
vertical
Yeah.
onto the page, and the whole purpose of a Waverly is almost to trick the nib into feeling smoother than it is.
Yeah.
Because as the tipping is more in line with the page, so some of the bounce comes back, and more of the bottom of the tipping is exposed to the page, the
Mhm.
top.
Mhm.
So it kind of gives it that artificial smoothness.
Yeah. Well,
It's a very nice balance.
the I think it's
It's
ran
really
out of ink at that
Mhm.
point. But anyway, this is a pen that I'm not afraid of using it. I just don't have any reason to use it. If I had this piece of paper only on a desert island,
Mhm.
maybe I'd bring this pen along,
Yeah.
just in case I thought I had something important to write. So this is a wall pen that
Ooh.
has a dip nib in it, a Frankenpen
Wow.
nib. So let's see how this one.
Oh wow. This is great.
When we're done with our video, I can bring out a dozen more dip pen nibs and you can play with them if you want to. And if you can learn how to create these or alter other nibs to do
Yeah.
what this is, the springiness of it,
Mhm.
and also the quick return.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's that paper that's bothering me. I have hundreds of old ledger books
Mhm.
that I normally draw on, and I'll bring that paper out in a second.
Mhm.
But it's the snappy back
Yeah.
and this seems slow on this paper.
Mhm.
Here is another. This
Oh.
is one where I started adding the breather hole thinking that would help. It doesn't really, because
No, I wouldn't.
oh my god, this is just
That's ridiculous.
that's better than sex. Writing with that pen. I told that once at a pen seminar. People were shocked, and I said, "Well,
Mhm.
try it out. You don't have to dress up and go to a fancy restaurant."
Mhm.
The downsides of sex, or put your children you don't want through college. I'm going to get some of my paper that I use.
That's a great name.
Isn't that fun?
This is fun.
There are 3 dip pens on eBay right now up for grabs, and they all look like they're good.
Mhm.
I would buy them. I would continue bidding on them if I had my calligraphy business still moving, but I really don't. So I don't really need them. But I think they would be great for you if you were interested in trying to capture what they have.
Sure.
I mean,
I mean-
I'm not saying that you're not doing already a great job at doing what you do, but okay, the guy at the Boston Pen Show, this he has taken the
Wow.
whatever nibs you use, and
Mhm.
he has made a pen that can do that too, where he does the T cut, the cross cut like you do, and sort of plays around with it in the same way that you're playing around with it, and coming up with some really nice results. But he isn't going into the business, so he's not going to be it. So try writing on that with the pen you just had. This paper is so smooth, and
This
it's
is
also
really nice.
really hard.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, this is some really nice paper. Oh, this is fantastic paper.
so whenever you're at an antique shop, and I can give you a stack of this paper too if you want,
Oh, this is great.
because it's so hard.
Mhm.
The surface is so hard, and it's also so smooth that it's just a pleasure to write
Yeah.
on.
It really is.
Where this paper that you have, it's nice. This seems softer.
It's
This is
softer.
this sort of hardness of this paper. You can hear it.
Right.
That whether it's starched, there's some sizing in it, or what, I don't know. You want me to bring a couple more of these pens for you to try?
Sure. Yes, please.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, this is, if you could create nibs that do exactly this,
Mhm.
that same sharpness of return,
Yeah.
that scratchy one molecule of
Mhm.
iridium at its finest, I think that you don't have to have any more than 2 tines. No, your big tine pen, 9-tine pen is really, the Ninth Symphony is really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, let me drag. So tell another joke.
All right. What else do we have here? I'm gonna show him this in a second when he gets back, but this is another special one. It's a 3-layer nib with 2 functional layers, with one of them acting as an overfeed. Yeah, right over there. So yeah, this is it's a cursive italic on one side, fine cursive italic. And then on the reverse, it's a large marker. So the idea behind it is that you can title a page. And then add some headers by adjusting the line angle. And then you flip it back over for normal writing. So the idea is kind of to have every nib size in one pen. Yeah. And let's see. some writing ASMR for you guys. Just writing ASMR.
You're what?
Writing ASMR.
Okay. Right. Yes. Okay. Oh, you're gonna hate me. Look at all these, and this is just like a tenth of them.
Oh my god.
So one of the things that I've learned when I was making these Franken pens is the nibs are so long that I have to find the right
Caps.
cap
Yeah.
that does, and the best pens to do that with are these Waterman 12 kind of things, eyedrop fill, because there's no inner cap, there's no screw, there's no nothing. You just have to make sure that that doesn't hit the top. And then I set the nibs. This one, there's space between the feed and the nib, but I don't really care about that. I always dip these pens. In fact, let me find some more ink for us to use. I always dip the nibs when I do an envelope or something. I don't ever fill them. I do put a sack in them so there's no air pressure issues. The capillary action will.
Wow. Oh my.
So let me get a good bottle of ink here.
Wow.
And the thing with these nibs, as you know, with any nib that was made before 1910, they are all really finished by hand. The ball of iridium was not always the same, and then they were, the way the gold pen was made was different as well. So no two Waterman number 2 flexible nibs are going to write the same, regardless.
Yeah.
So this one I would describe, if I was Ted, this would be sort of the town floozy, just a little easy, little smooth. Nothing really bothers her. She's seen it all. She's done it all, and it's very smooth.
Yeah,
and
is,
it's very. And there's other ones that are just prickly. So we talked about that one. What does this one do? I also use sometimes a lot of shitty pens, like the Park Row. This had a steel nib in it originally. And the steel nibs, because they're fatter than the gold nibs in cross section, I can put a dip pen nib in it without cracking or doing any damage to it. More normally, if it was a dual fold or a Eversharp, I'll have to put a smaller diameter feed in. Otherwise, I'd crack it. I suppose I could file down the top or something, but you can hear the difference between this and the last one. This one is her little sister that hasn't learned how to be such a floozy. She still goes to Sunday school and listens to the minister telling her not to be bad. Oh my God, this one is amazing. I haven't used this one in a long time, but I can just look at this.
Wow.
This is in a Univer pen. The barrel is it was their Schaefer sort of third tier thing. Okay, you're still on the side streets. You can get it out on the highway there. You can get this line out of it. You're still.
Wow.
You could still go another 50% bigger. I think. There you go. But it still snaps back really, really quick. So you're thinking the snapback is partly due to the squared off top or the flattened top.
Yes. It's also a matter of the like how much stress is put onto the metal itself. There's a fine balance between having tension and snap. So these really benefit by the fact that there's so much material that the energy has to go through, so it can return quite quickly. Ooh, my God, this is really nice.
Now, on the upstrokes, you might want to try to lift up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a trick that a couple of calligraphers have taught me how they do this. And one is a calligrapher here in Massachusetts who takes a couple of pages of a newspaper, folds them up. So there's 3 levels of paper, but he doesn't flatten them. There's a little cushion. So when he's dealing with when he's writing, there's pressure being pushed up by the paper.
Oh, right, yeah.
So he can. So
just very lightly.
as soon as he sees that there's a line, he doesn't have to press down anymore. So that's the fine.
Yeah.
And another guy that does this is P.S. Scribe. You know him?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He takes the paper and he runs it across the table, so the paper is bowed.
Little bow, yeah.
And again, he's allowing the paper to do some of the work.
You have to lift into the nib, yeah.
I have a typewriter called the Hammond, and their shtick was, rather than you pressing the key and the thing hitting the paper, you press the key, this thing rotated. I'll show you. I've got 2 of them right across the hall here from you. The thing rotates, and then a hammer hits from the back of the paper.
Oh, wow.
Against it.
Oh,
hits
sure.
the back of the paper, and it between the paper and the type is the ribbon. So, but no matter how hard you press that key, it's always the same pressure. So it's really, really cool. And so that I would say this wants to stay home, be quiet. Let's see, what does this do? This is probably so far the one that's most like a Waterman number 2 nib. Doesn't have necessarily the snap back.
This is a nice pen.
And this is just a Parker nib in that one. That doesn't do anyone any good. Ooh.
Yeah, this is where I think one of my flex nibs are at.
This one, it's very long and the feed is very far out there, so it may have a different feel.
This may be Todd as well.
It might be. Maybe Todd, Fairchild.
Wow.
There's one, I'm going to see if I can find it. It just has this tiny, tiny nib, tiny dip pen nib, like a number 1 sized nib. And it has this really prickly, oh my God, this one you have to fight to keep it, to make it thin. This one just wants to. Try that one. That one will scare you.
Oh, wow. Oh. This is a nib. Oh my.
It just gives up. I surrender. And it's really hard to get it back to fine. It wants to be your 9th Symphony pen. It wants just to be big and pour out ink.
Wow, that's like the nib. Here you go, this one.
if you want to borrow these and then bring them back, I mean, if it helps you, if it will help you design a nib that you want, you're welcome to do that.
Maybe just one of them would actually be really interesting, and see if I can copy it, or at least get something similar.
This is another one you're gonna love. That one's, is that the one that's really hard to make thin? Yeah, it just wants to be fat all the time. It wants to go. Okay, you're gonna take this and try it writing with that one.
So, oop, my God. Wow.
I mean, this is
really
almost the
nice.
perfect one.
Yeah.
It just, it's so fine, and it's happy being made fat, and there's no complaints.
Nope.
It's really understandable. You're not. It doesn't give you any surprises, so that's sort of fun.
Yeah, this is really as good as it gets.
Let's see if I can find that really prickly one here.
Oh, that is quite the nib. These really are spectacular. I mean, these are probably the best flex nibs I've ever used. Oh my God, this is an amazing pen. This is a beautiful pen. I really like this one.
That one?
This is super cool.
That's it's in a Jiffy pen, I think, and I'm not sure I have that really prickly one. I really do need to go through these. At some point, I'm going to be going through, you know, I maybe have 60 of these dip pen nibs, and I don't need them. I don't need 60. I mean, I love doing what I'm doing here with you, where I can play with each one, but you know, I'd rather have half of them be in hands of people that are going to actually continue to use them or use them, and I just have to, you know, decide. A lot of these are in pens that I really like, nibs, and they don't belong in this pen. They belong on a dip thing, and I could put them back in a dip holder and sell it that way. But then, you know, they're going to have to dip every time and every word, and that's no fun. So, but putting them in a plain, you know, barrel. You know, this is a crappy Majestic, but it fits perfectly in it. Here's an Edward Todd. But again, this nib seems to fit exactly that pen. You know, this very slender, sterling, refined pen, and it seems to want to write only the most polite, but slightly naive and scared
It's
love letter to a girl in his class.
it's a perfect perfect way to describe this pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very polite.
Um,
Reserved and polite.
and this one, I don't know why I put it in this. Often short stubby pens like this one, this barrel, I'll put sort of a little robust, strong kind of nib that's doesn't have a delicacy to it. That'll be like any Wall Eversharp pen. There's nothing particularly fancy about that. Okay, this one, it looks like it's going to be more fun than it is. That one stays safely within the speed limit. Where this one leaves you with his dust and exhaust. He doesn't have a muffler, and he needs a he needs a catalytic converter or something. This one just goes fast and furious.
This one.
I'm surprised
Ooh,
we
wow.
haven't had anyone come into the room.
You keep your door open normally.
Well, no, I meant the YouTube room.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're going to stop this one. So why don't we say goodbye? I'm going to show people how lucky I am to have this talented man who's also strikingly exotically handsome.
Oh dear.
And then there's me. No, oops, and I'm upside down, and there you are. You're laughing. So wave.
All right. See you guys.
Oh, I don't know why it's not working. There we go. And